All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring Rindent, the powder keg beneath the glacial peaks. Now, we're not just looking at a static map here, guys. We are unpacking a living, breathing town that is literally perfectly constructed to ignite your next tabletop campaign.
Just listen to this for a second. One knock for the living, one for the dead, one for what listens under the stone. I mean, wow. That is the Skiftlufted, or the Shift Oath. Every single day, before the miners of Rindent descend into the dark, they strike the timber of the mine shaft 3 times. It's this intensely sensory, rhythmic superstition that sets a gritty, dark tone right out of the gate. You know, this isn't your pristine, shining high fantasy kingdom. No way. This is a place where survival is just a daily negotiation with the dark.
Okay, let's dive into this and see where this daily struggle actually takes place. The town between mountain and forest. Geographically, Rindent is trapped. I mean, it is wedged tight between the freezing, totally unforgiving glacial peaks above and the hostile, ancient, whispering woods below. It's a town entirely defined by its boundaries. The mountain offers incredible wealth, sure, but it demands lives in return. And the forest? It provides the timber and charcoal absolutely necessary for the forges, but it absolutely despises the town's exploitation.
And the sensory reality of Rindent is just brutal. The source material brings this place to life through these incredibly harsh sensory details. Rindent is a working-class town built on soot, sweat, and a whole lot of debt. The streets reek of smoke, wet stone, and pack horses. There's this permanent metallic iron taste in the freezing air, and the rhythmic, constant sound of hammers never stops ringing from the soot quarters. And looming over the whole shebang is the Wall of Memories, where the names of every single worker swallowed by the mountain are carved. It's a harsh, incredibly tactile reality.
So, this brings us to the laws, promises, and tolls. How exactly does a town trapped between a deadly mountain and an angry forest actually survive? Well, it's through a precarious, frankly terrifying balancing act of strict, unforgiving rules. Let's break down the pillars of this incredibly fragile society.
First up is that Shift Oath we touched on a second ago. Now, this isn't just some quaint local tradition. It is a mandatory, fiercely enforced pledge. The workers swear to descend with open eyes, never leave a comrade in the dark, and only take what the mountain willingly gives. The absolutely crucial point here is that if a miner breaks this oath, say if they abandon a friend in a cave-in, they become shiftless. They're completely outcast from society. It's a brilliant cultural touchstone for world building and an immediate high-stakes conflict point for your players to deal with. Then there's the Law of the Stone, which is governed by the dwarves using the Stenboden, or the Stone Book. Picture these heavy black slate plates bound together with copper rings. The dwarves actually believe that the stone itself has a memory, and this book is the infallible, absolute record of every shaft, every collapse, and every single vein of ore. And listen, the dwarven bureaucracy has immense power here. If even a single rune in this book is damaged, or if an ore vein is mined illegally, dwarven jurists can legally shut down an entire mining shift. They can instantly paralyze the town's economy.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive external pressures on Rindent, the forest toll. To harvest timber from the Whispering Woods, the town has to pay a strict 3-part toll at every new moon. First is fire, where they bury charcoal to acknowledge that fire doesn't own everything. Second is blood, meaning charcoal burners actually have to bleed onto a root stone. And third is seed, where they must plant 30 new trees for every 100 they cut down. If Rindent fails this rule of 3, well, the forest strikes back. Paths move, axes instantly rust, and entire logging camps are literally swallowed by moss. The power play above ground. But look, laws are enforced by people, right? The folks in charge of Rindent are actively pulling the town apart with their own competing goals. Let's meet the key players in this surface-level power struggle. First is Harthun Kalsvar, the mine bailiff. His quote here really sets the tone. "I have heard the mountain cough before. When I say you back up, or I write your names on the wall of memories before the sun goes down." He's a human born right in the soot quarters who actually survived a horrific cave-in as a youth. Now he's utterly obsessed with mine safety and keeping Rindent independent from outside powers. He rules the shafts with an iron fist, carrying this unquenchable mining lamp that kinda holds its own strange secrets. He's very pragmatic, very authoritarian, and fiercely protective of his people. Now, opposing his intense pragmatism is Brynja Dulharn, the dwarven stone jurist. She says, "I don't stop the shift because I want to. I stop it because the stone has already testified. You're just too loud to hear the verdict." She represents the absolute, unyielding adherence to the law.
Sent by external dwarven trade clans, she ensures the stone book is followed to the exact letter. She absolutely does not care about human deadlines or production quotas. To her, an illegal dig is practically a cosmic theft. She will happily halt all work over one damaged rune, showing a frankly terrifying devotion to bureaucracy over human livelihood.
And then, looming from the tree line, we have Maerla Rotvacht, the forest warden. Her warning is chilling. I didn't come to stop Rindent, I came to remind you that the forest is already counting your axe strokes. She represents the intense, creeping external pressure of the Whispering Woods. Her entire job is to force the town to honor the forest toll. She brings this very real, existential threat that if the town's industry pushes just a bit too far, nature will simply rise up and crush them. So, when the town falls apart, what actually happens when these fragile treaties finally break? I mean, what happens when the bailiff demands wood, the jurist halts the work, and the warden declares the toll unpaid?
If that happens, you have the absolute ultimate powder keg scenario for your players to navigate. And the source material maps out exactly how incredibly fast this timeline of collapse plays out. Within just days 1 to 3 of a work stoppage, wages dry up entirely. The seasonal workers start to starve, and riots break out in the streets. By days 4 to 7, the coal vanishes. The massive smelting furnaces start to freeze, which completely ruins them, and in a sheer panic, people start burning the town's defensive barricades just to stay warm. By week 2, trade halts completely, hyperinflation hits, and the town basically eats itself. Your players could find themselves in a brutal survival horror situation just trying to buy a loaf of bread.
But you know, all of this political tension, the starvation, the riots, all of that is really just what's happening up on the surface. The real question, the question that literally changes everything is this: what happens when the miners dig too deep?
Let's move to the secret beneath Rindent and see how this builds, because when we transition from the bustling surface map to this terrifying vertical slice of the underground, we start to see that beneath the approved shafts, beneath the jurisdiction of the bailiff and the jurist, something else is waiting in the dark. To really grasp this, we have to look at the truth of the old shaft. Officially, the story goes that it was sealed off with heavy iron gates years ago due to a horrific cave-in. That's the company line. But the truth? It's a desperate cover-up. Because when the original rescue teams dug down to find those trapped miners, they didn't just find rubble. They found an opened passage leading deeper into the mountain. And as they stood there, they heard 3 knocks echoing back at them from the dark. Even worse, they heard voices. Not panicked screams, but calm, methodical voices, quietly counting out the names of the workers who were still alive. Beyond that sealed shaft lies Den Endrastaden, or the Second City. And guys, this isn't just some ruined dwarven hold. It's a deeply eerie architectural anomaly. You've got slanted passages that completely defy all mining logic. There are elaborate staircases sitting right in the middle of tunnels meant only for cargo, and ornate doors that open into solid rock. But the most disturbing detail of all, the detail that absolutely terrifies Era, the town's Death Watcher, is that despite the massive scale of this underground complex, there are no skeletons anywhere. None. Whatever lived down there either never died or they just didn't leave bodies behind. And emanating from the absolute deepest levels of this second city is a phenomenon known as the blue flame, or Minnesalton. It's a weird, cold blue light that casts zero heat. But it doesn't just glow, right? It infects. Miners who work too close to the old tunnels start seeing it in their sleep. They dream of a massive circular council room deep beneath the earth, lit by this cold blue fire, with all these empty stone chairs just waiting in the dark. Now, the authorities have tried their best to ignore it, relying on the iron gates of the old shaft to keep whatever it is contained. But then you have Nalik Vress, a young goblin tunnel runner who navigates the tiny, unmapped air vents. He knows the terrifying truth because he's actually found a physical hole bypassing the sealed old shaft. As he warns the players, "I told you the passage was there, but you big folk only look at doors. The mountain doesn't use doors." So, yeah, the seal is already broken. So, what exactly is the Second City? Well, the town is divided into 3 conflicting theories of the deep. The Dwarven theory argues it's a lost ancestral archive of memory, where that blue flame is actually a magical record of the stone itself. The Forest Warden theory believes it's an ancient treaty site, built by whoever first brokered peace between the mountain and the woods. And the Smuggler theory? They think it's simply full of unregistered wealth and forbidden artifacts, just ripe for the taking.
But looking at the source material, the absolutely most dangerous outcome for your campaign is if all three of these theories turn out to be partially true.
Because the deeper the miners dig, the more the rules on the surface begin to break down, and the closer they get to whatever is waiting in the dark. As the blue flame bleeds into their dreams, we are left with one final haunting question for your campaign. Is the second city waiting to be recognized by Rindent, or is it waiting to replace it? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this gives you everything you need to bring the volatile, deadly town of Rindent to your table.